Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, the Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I'm joined by always by my trusty co-host Michael. We're back this week recapping little regionals and even more card reveals. Michael, I'm sure you're buzzing after that Georgia win in Texas over the number one ranked team. Uh, I know you were traveling today. Were you at least able to celebrate the big dub last night
Oh
or not?
man, you know it. Anytime Georgia's playing, I try to prioritize watching Georgia football, and yes, we did. So we were for background. We were out of town. My wife's cousin is welcoming in their second little one to the world in a couple weeks. So we had a baby shower, and it was like a big joint family baby shower that happened today. But we got to my wife's hometown, Wilmington, North Carolina, and we went there Saturday. And you better believe I made everybody watch the game. Graham even got to stay up. I told Cam, I was like, Graham can stay up the entire night to watch this game because how big of a game it is. And so my little 6-year-old homie stayed up till almost midnight watching the game, and it was awesome, man. It was such a good game. I will hold my thoughts since this is not a college football podcast. I'll hold my thoughts about the officiating. I do think it was a pass interference. I don't think they messed up that call, but I think they certainly ruined the integrity of college football by reversing an irreversible call. But I digress there. We could chat for days about this. Eric, I know if you're listening to, I hope you enjoy your $5. I saw on on Twitter, Eric Ridgway, our good friend from the Beach Court podcast, had said something
Yeah.
about Georgia and Texas needing to hit over 57 so that he can win out and hit some money on the line for it. We did not, but I did say, I commented on his tweet. I said, "Hey, listen, if Georgia wins and we don't give you the 57, I'll Venmo you $5."
I'll
And I'm a man of
take
my
it.
words, and I
Yeah.
Venmoed him $5 after the game. So you're welcome, Eric, and go Dogs. But yeah, no, always a good time. College football is a blast. Georgia's is, I love it. I love Georgia football. On the Pokemon front, I have not been playing a ton of Pokemon. Life has been crazy. Again, like I mentioned on the podcast last week, we were in Savannah last weekend. As soon as we got back the next day, I hopped on a plane, went to Philadelphia for 2 days, came back for a couple days, worked, and went out of town again. So life has been pretty crazy. And I was talking with you earlier before the podcast, just saying how like I'm freaking exhausted, dude. I'm ready for a slow weekend for a change. I'm ready to not travel and drive and all that good stuff and play some Pokemon. I've missed out on local league challenges and league cups for several weeks now. I think the last time I've been at a local event was leading up to Baltimore, and that was well over a month ago now, which is pretty crazy. So a little behind on the meta, which is fine. I'll catch back up. Unfortunately, the meta is about to change with Surging Sparks releasing here soon. Pre-releases
Yeah.
are kicking off too, so I'm excited for some new cards, ripping some new packs, and all that. But yeah, I digress. Go Dogs! If you're Texas Longhorns fans out there, horns down, and all that good stuff too. So, Aaron, over to you. How's your week, man?
Yeah, I think with obviously being in Louisville last weekend, it was basically centered around family time
Yeah,
and spending as much time with her son. It was basically around him. My wife had to change like rooms in the daycare, so she was gone for pretty much like all of Saturday during the day. I think she got back a little before supper time, but just allowed me to, with being gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then getting home Sunday around supper time last week, just spending a lot of time with her son, which I will never complain about. Obviously,
absolutely.
we're expecting, or she's expecting, obviously, I'm not pregnant, but we're expecting our second kid in the family here after Christmas. So basically, any time that we can get just with, one-on-one time with him, I'm sure I'll probably ask you for some direction of how that jealous nature of the first kid, the firstborn, being jealous of all the love and attention that the second baby gets. But I'm excited. We just were able to spend a lot of time with each other. I was able to actually to clean off like my dad and I and like his best friend built like a big bar top. I was
Nice.
finally able to clear off enough bulk to finally set up a couple play mats. So on Saturday, while I was kind of just watching Lille, and obviously Iowa played at night on Saturday, so I was able just to play. Instead of using TCG Live, I was just able to grab Zard and Regidrago and just play against myself. because
Nice.
obviously if we have these cardboard, you might as well use them rather than
Absolutely.
having them just collect dust. So something there where it's just trying to get reps in
Yep.
in a different way. And like I said, I built a bunch of decks before Louisville just to take for practice. So it's like, well, I might as well continue to do that or practice against myself. So in our PCS challenge, it was round 3. I really needed a dub here because I didn't know what was going to lie in round 4. And I completely just made the wrong meta call. I saw a really cool list.
Mhm.
I think there's 2, but it was like the Quad Cornerstone Mask and Noivern tech. And I was like, oh, this is good. Can't be attacked by abilities, can't be attacked by basics if you get Noivern off. And then my opponent chose Gardevoir. And I was like, cool, this is like a 3% chance of me winning
Yep.
unless I'm able to. They have no ball search or something. I'm able to donk or something like that. So that did not go very well. I knew that was going to go bad. So I think that kicks me out of the running. I got a buy in round 4, but that's probably going to hurt my resistance. So I just don't foresee my way into playing for that top cut. But we'll see. I'll talk about more of that later.
Yes. Rip.
And then sports was a downfall. Iowa played horribly at Michigan State, tried to come back late, and the Dolphins lost again. I see with the Tua-less Dolphins, our offense just is horrible. I see he's eligible to come off and he's not retiring, and the coach kind of said that he expects him to play. But when we're 2-4, I just think the mountain is too steep to tall. We'll see. I would love to
Yeah.
have the Dolphins go on to run and make a run, but I want Tua to be safe, obviously, first and foremost. But Liverpool won,
There we go.
as people across the pond call it football. Obviously, soccer here. I know Oscar is a big fan, and Oscar, I hope you and the baby and mom are all healthy. I know, probably not getting a whole lot of sleep, but I know he's a fellow Liverpool fan. We won again, so we stay on top of the league. So that was exciting today. That was today as well too. But
Nice.
I digress, Michael. We have Lille to talk about in
Yes, we
France.
do.
And I am going to, before we kick this off, Regidrago V-Star. So
Crack one open.
crack one open for all the Regidrago V-Star gang.
And I'll pour one out for the Lug because it didn't make it
Yep.
happen.
This is something that I've been waiting for. We talked about last week in Louisville, where it's just like I just want Reggie Drago to get a dub so I can celebrate it, even if it's not myself playing it. But as someone that has loved the V Star, like Dialga V Star, Arceus V Star, and now Reggie Drago V Star were all my favorite V Stars when those got re-released. And it finally got the dub and piloted by, I suppose, Netherlands, but also lives in England as well too because he's at college. But James Cox, an amazing player, and took home the dub
I think
with
James.
his Reggie Draco V-Star.
I think James is
Is he
technically Australian.
Australian now? Okay,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
know.
I
I
guess
know he's
always.
transplanted in a way, but maybe always
Yeah.
has been that way. I know
Maybe
he
I
went
could be
from.
wrong, but I
I remember
know.
something about the Netherlands at some point with
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah. I know they. I know James works a lot with Kaiwa and Kababe and things like that too. So, right, yeah, yeah. I want to say they played the same 60 even. So, in that
Yeah,
same crew. But nonetheless, like you were saying, James is quite the expert. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. James is quite the expert in Pokemon. If you've ever had a chance to watch their YouTube content, I don't know if you've ever checked them out on YouTube.
yes, oh yeah, yeah,
James's content is insane, and it's basically free coaching. I know they have Medify, but the what they put out is just unreal. And I think they had like a Gardevoir masterclass because they were part of the Australian crew playing Guardy for
yep,
quite some time if we were to look back. But yeah, absolutely well deserved win. I know we were chatting before this. I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I'm not surprised that James finally got their dub. Because when we look through their history in the TCG, they've had a heck of a run for many years now. So pretty stoked to see that. Can't wait to go watch top 8.
yeah. He played, piloted very well. In the finals, he went against Dragapult. And game 1 was back and forth. So this is where it's different because he has the 1/1 Hoot Hoot knockdown line where
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't play that at Louisville. Instead, I substituted like a 5th attacker. So besides your Dragapult, Tina V Star, and Kirim, I put in Gudra. And
yeah.
Gudra into Dragapult is just if if Fez is offline and they don't play Pidgeot, which my opponent did when I played against it, it's like if you just Gudra, it has to be a 3-hit knockout,
Yeah.
even with some Radiant Alakazam. I suppose if they were able to get like a Dusknar, going, then obviously that changes things. But you're just always hyper aware if they bench a Duskull, then you're probably switching to a Dragapult line as well too, because then you get 3 prizes. But yeah, he piloted the deck very well. Um, Game one was very back and forth, and Dragapult was able to basically kind of, he didn't get to take a six price turn, but he had the board state set up. James quickly scooped when he realized like, yeah, there's just no way. Game two was a not a donk, but a turn two donk where he was able to get the Kyurem for 3 prizes because it was a Pidgey and two Drago or Dreepies, excuse me. And then game three was pretty much kind of back and forth, but again, Dragapult just kind of a step too slow, and he was able to take away the W. I believe we have his list up very consistent of where things stand. Now, this one has a little bit of tech because there's actually 2 stadiums, which these are the stadiums of choice always within this. But he was able to play the normal 3-3 line of Regidrago, V and V Star, 3 Ogre and the 2 Dragapult EX for your main attacker,
Yeah.
a Giratina V Star, obviously for your big one hit KOs, and then Kyurem as like your main attackers, and then obviously supported by the Hoot Hoot Noctowl line that I mentioned. Squawkabilly EX. He did find space for the Mew EX, obviously for just getting a little bit more draw. Fezandipity, because if you're not playing Fezandipity EX in your deck, you're probably not playing anything relevant unless you're playing Stall, of course. And then Cleffa and Radiant Zard. And then your typical, line of 4 Professor's Research, 2 Iono, 2 Boss, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Energy Switch, 3 Vessel, 2 Super Rod, a Kansas Clone, because that's just such a good universal card. Obviously, we saw
Yeah.
Manaphy, or at least I did, saw Manaphy kind of come back a little bit more into the meta this past weekend in France. Your Switch, Prime Catcher, then your Jamming Tower, your Temple Sinnoh, 7 Grass, 3 Fire. I know in some cases some lists got pretty greedy with 2 Fire,
Yeah,
but
that
I
never
think if you're
felt
only
good.
running 3 Vessel, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
only running three, to me, my choice at Louisville was like either I'm playing 4 Vessel and 2 Fire, or I'm playing 3 Vessel and 3 Fire. And after just doing some sequencing and one time having probably like 4 or 5 shuffles in of just setting up initial plays, did my deck check, and then I was like, oh cool, 2 Fire are prized. Like I just can
Yeah.
never, yeah, I have to play 3, so pretty consistent. You can see kind of just the deck list played where it's this list has been pretty popular, and I would say I know you're gonna go back and recap, but Jamming Tower was the MVP. He was able to find that so early that shut off the Force Sealstone, obviously,
Yeah.
and then even shutting off the Sparking Crystal in Game
Right.
3, where it was a little bit
Massive.
back and forth, but he was able to find that super early and not having to try to like V Star to put it back in just allows him to get what he needs. But props
Yeah.
to James Cox, obviously a former top 4 player to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Palkia V Star Intellience, so was able to see that, and that's like I want to say because he's still pretty young. I want to say that was either his first or second year in Masters.
Uh,
Um,
maybe no. I
I'm
think
trying to curious.
2018, 20. So yeah, second year.
Okay, second year.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah, because of the weird COVID thing.
yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, heck of a player,
Yeah.
heck of a deck as well as I'll say too.
Yeah.
But I know he was go through, and I think you have the day one meta as well too that we can bring
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I'll pull up in just a second, but I did want to comment too. I'm not the big Drago head like you are, and maybe you would correct me here, but I
Sure.
think it's hard to argue against this being the definitive way to play Drago at this point. I mean, when you look at it, I love that Limitless shows you this too. So it finished first
Yeah.
and fifth in Lille, and then John Ing piloted it to 15th place in Dortmund. It got 16th in Louisville, 25th, 30th, 60th. Like, I think to me, again, as someone who's not playing it, but in this meta, like I just think this feels like the way to play it. So I'm not surprised to see it do well and finally get its chance to shine for sure. But maybe I'm wrong. But I like it. I like it a lot.
No, I think if you're gonna try to play the Noctowl line in here, I that is just one thing that I need more reps of. Obviously, my choice going to Louisville was something that I felt really good in, and about the
Yeah.
20 games I was able to go through, like I didn't even get knocked out off, half the games,
Right.
and I was like, well, I really want to predicate on that fifth attacker, at least in my instance. And I wish I had a little bit more space for a jamming tower on top of the temple.
Yeah.
But I just went into max recovery. So
Sure.
I played the superior energy retrieval, and then the one of night stretcher was literally the last card that I put in. I cut Mew for that, and I can see both cases because Mew was pretty good watching James because he was on stream a whole lot in day two. But being able just to dwindle your hand down and then being able to draw two or sometimes even one and hitting that research to go through. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to try this out. I
Yeah.
think in terms of this is pretty much kind of the way to go. It just kind of depends. Like I said, I need more practice with the Noctowl. But the day one, we saw Raging Bolt be our number one deck once again at 15%. Very similar to what that I think. Yeah, thank you. We had 1,311 total players, masters, I should say. So obviously it was just the 8 rounds, and Lugia V Star surprisingly came in at number two
Yeah, we were
at
just
ten
talking.
percent.
We were talking about that last week on the podcast. How the EU's not as big on Lugia, but they sure showed up this week. Um,
Proved me wrong.
I know, right?
I
Fly high,
still think
baby.
in yeah, and I still think it's such a strong deck, especially right now. I generally actually was fairly surprised with it being number two. And then we saw Zard come all the way back from nowhere to be seen on
Mhm.
the page one of day one at Louisville to 10%. But like I said, people just love playing that. We saw that was at 10% as well, too. The exact same number of decks as Lugia, 124 total, which
Yeah.
I thought was pretty cool.
Hmm.
We saw the Origin Form Palkia V Star and the Dustnar. That continues to kind of just slowly make its way up there. The plays, day one, round either 7 or 8, I would highly suggest everyone that's able to watch that. Such a cool sequence to end the game. It was on turn in game three, and he was able to take 4 prizes to get the
That's
dub.
awesome. Yeah.
It literally on the last play, but like you can see him sequencing the player. I can't remember off the cake because I was able to binge this as quickly as possible, but it was amazing. And I think this deck has so many different options. Really cool deck. I know our Discord has been pretty high on it of late. We saw Regidrago V Star at 8% as well too, and then Dragapult EX rounding out the top of the top 6 decks in day one. Which, if we go to day two, we'll notice
Dun, dun, dun.
Raging Bolt went from 15% down to 8%, only 9 decks out of
Yeah.
195 made day two, which we saw win in Louisville, but obviously kind of reverted back towards the means of not being able to make a deep run. And I suppose with the rise of Lugia, which you see did very well in probably the best conversion, actually.
Absolutely.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think it
it
might have
was.
might have etched out Regidrago V Star.
Yep.
So Lugia was the top deck in day two at 16%. Regidrago V Star at number 13. Zard was about 50-50 at 9%. Snorlax Control, which I was able to get a tweet out Friday of like Snorlax Control just still seems really, really good right now.
Yeah.
And then we saw Gardevoir, obviously nowhere to be seen, but nothing likes two prize, beat stick decks more than Gardevoir.
That's right.
I have no idea if this was the Hen Neutralist or a mixture of both. And especially my thoughts. I know you haven't been able to play as much, but my thoughts are if you can go second and have a really good deck going second, which maybe isn't Raging Bolt or something like that, but Gardevoir, if you're able to get a couple Curly in line and you're not playing Regidrago where they have Kyurem, it feels really, really good right now.
Yeah.
But obviously, we saw Lugia V Star go through, um, you know, kind of prevailed. And we actually saw it around the top tables. If you want to bring up the top 8 first,
Yep.
and then when we have that up here,
Yeah,
there is
it
a
does look.
prominent name.
It does look like it was the Benek Gardevoir that was in the top 16. So perhaps
There we
that's
go.
the item lock came into play with a lot of these Guardy decks, which I don't think the graphics show. Obviously, it still shows a Driftloon
Just
counterpart,
where,
but
yeah.
um, I don't know. I feel like what I did see on Twitter did seem like Bennett Guardy was the play for a lot of these, but maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to go back and double check there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And Guardy was no, you're good. Gardevoir, I don't remember seeing it too much on stream from
Yeah.
the 2 days. Like I said, I binge watch these very fast at 2 times speed, which is even quicker than I'm normally accustomed to. Just because I was trying to catch up, obviously with a big time difference. Like they were starting to
Yeah.
stream like around 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Or my time, I should say.
Yeah.
But there is one certain player, one of my favorite players from the Netherlands. Which, sorry, James, if you're listening, but we saw Sander Wojcik. He made top cut. They did have an asymmetrical cut, so he got 12th place, and he played a Rotomless V um, Snorlax control. So just quad Snorlax, 2 Mimikyu, and one Cornerstone Ogerpon, and then your typical, a whole bunch of Penny. Only
Yep.
2 Arven, which I thought was going through, but like Xander is very much a one of person. So this isn't your typical list. But I don't know about you. It was just, I mean, he even has the Grusha, which if
Yeah.
you don't have energy in play, you can draw up to like 8 cards or
Mm-hmm.
something like that in your hand, I should say. He even
Yeah.
has like the Choi,
Yeah.
which I think is
It's,
both opponent
what does Choi
reveals
do?
their hands and then
Oh
you
yeah.
draw 2 cards.
That's
Like
awesome.
just wild. Like yeah.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to see him.
Yeah.
Just come back. He's you just haven't seen him very much. I know he played at EOIC and made day 2, but like you just haven't seen his name. Obviously, one of the control masters,
Mm-hmm.
and very
I love that you could buy this deck for
just
$34. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And he just has always had the coolest deck builds. I
Yeah.
know when I first kind of got into the scene, obviously NAIC 2022 with his Mewtwo V Union. I was like, wait, what is going on here? I thought that was like the coolest thing. So like he's just always been one of my favorite players. And just a wild, just a wild deck list
Yeah.
is all I'm gonna say. So pretty
Yeah.
cool. He did tweet about it. Obviously, in this format with
Mm-hmm.
just turns not really last, or excuse me, games not really lasting that long. He just kind of had his Twitter where he talked about his list a little bit.
Yeah.
He thought just no Rotom just helped the price trade of just being able to last a little bit longer to deplete your opponent's resources,
Yep.
obviously. So fun to see him in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Makes a lot of sense to only be a 2 Arvin as well. I think you would call that out. But yeah, 2 Arvin with no Rotom makes sense because you're not going after a Forest Steel Stone or anything like that since you have no more
right.
V Pokemon. So that allowed for him to bring in something like the Choi and the Grusha and go on that route too. So cool
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, very cool to see him back. I'm actually kind of curious of trying that out. I wanted to play Snorlax in our PCS challenge this week, but I got to buy. So it looks like I will be on ladder and probably the only thing is
I'll
I guess I've
I'll
never
play it
played
for you.
control on. Yeah, thank you. I've never played control on ladder, but I suppose sometimes if they just see the block Snorlax, they just instantly scoop. That's probably what I feel. So I guess some free dubs I'd maybe in my future this week. So
That's
if you want to
awesome.
pull up the top 8,
Yeah, let's go
I
back.
know we had it up again, yeah, and I know Lugia was obviously pretty featured, but we see 4 Regidrago in the top 9, and yeah, I guess even if you go to 16, we
Yeah.
have 5 of them. So it seems like this really, I don't know why the downtrodden, and I know that your Bolt matchups isn't as good, but I know this week when I subjected myself to playing live, I hit it a couple times and I kind of put in the Discord. It's like I don't think I felt this satisfied of beating a deck with Regidrago specifically, since like beating Mew VMAX back in the day on PCTGO. Uh, but we saw quite a bit of Lugia. I know the top place deck, Josh, which is probably easier known as Zapdos
PCG.
PTCG.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see like his deck list is also look at all the placements that he's had in Worlds and at
Mm-hmm.
Dortmund as well too.
Yeah.
This one is like the heavy rats build, so literally 3 Mincino, which is pretty cool. Your normal 2 Luminia, but I guess I'll turn it back over to you. 3 research, 3 boss.
Yeah.
What do you think of his list here?
I think it's. I mean, it looks pretty clean. I don't love the 4 great ball. I don't think I've ever played 4. I think if I remember correctly, when I used to play a heavier great ball count, I think it was 3. But yeah, I mean, he's got consistency. Like he's guaranteed pretty easily to find what he needs. He's able to get the archy ups in the bin. Um, 2 jamming towers, interesting. I
Yeah,
Personally, I think I would go 1-1, 1 Mezagoza, 1 jamming tower. But I understand probably why, like especially seeing the bravery charms coming back, knowing you are likely to see a bunch of raging bolts come in, so it's beneficial there. So again, nothing wrong there, I think. And then looking at his energy counts makes sense to me. Obviously, read the meta call pretty well too by keeping V Guard, because I know some lists have been cutting the V Guard, but
yeah,
understanding that Regidrago is likely to be present, having that in there, and also it helps with the mirror too. In some instances, not all the time, but in some instances, it can save your lone Lugia from getting knocked out by a Tempest Dive if you're facing off in the mirror match. So, no, really clean list. Yeah, I think, I mean, it doesn't look too far off from where I'm at. I know I've kind of moved past the Carmine. I think personally, I like Squawkabilly. I think Squawkabilly really makes this deck so good.
yeah.
But it's clear that they're seeing quite a lot of success. You know, coming 21st with this list at Worlds, which is no easy task. 6th place, obviously in Lille, and then 78th in Dortmund. So kudos to Zapdos TCG. Follow their content along the way too. I think he puts out a lot of really great stuff, and yeah, really really solid list overall.
Yeah, I liked it specifically just because I've always been a really big Cincino attack. I
Yeah,
mean, just being able to KO Zard, obviously, but like I said, his own list, his own way. I do
yeah,
like the supporter count. The only thing I would see different is maybe that fourth boss for the Carmine, but
yeah,
I get it why. And who am I to question with the run that he's been on since Worlds?
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I've never
yeah,
finished
he
21st place with my League list in Worlds.
exactly.
So
Yeah, neither of us can say that. So props to him.
yeah,
He has been around in the community for quite some time, and obviously uh, pumps a lot of content out there and has a faithful following. So props to Josh for that as well too. And then um, we saw Snorlax. We don't have all the lists because obviously it just finished a few hours ago.
hmm
I think the coolest thing is the 14th place. We had Luke Kirkham
yeah,
playing a
yeah,
Gouging Fire EX deck. Michael, if you want to go ahead and just kind of comment first time on it. I haven't even seen the deck. I just knew that it finished, so I figured we better bring this up. Just being the off the wall meta type of decks
yeah.
lovers that we are.
Well, so first off, I've always been a big fan of Gouging Fire. I love the Pokemon in general. I love Entei. I love Gouging Fire. Um,
Yeah,
a couple of our local friends here, but Brad at Trainer Hill, he has been tearing up the local scene with Gouging Fire for the last couple of months too. So it's always been
nice.
there. It's just one of those underplayed decks. But I mean, Gouging Fire in and of itself can do 260 damage. Like that's a pretty big deal, and it's not that
Yeah.
hard to hit. And then with the inclusion of the Monkey Dory, you're able to scale some damage to where you really need it to be too. Um, and then you can have some sneaky plays with the Delphox V, um, and then you've easily got some other handy attacker with NTV. I'm not quite sure what this Moltres does actually, to be honest. Oh, okay.
Is that
Basic
the
Pokemon. Your
Pokemon
basic,
Go? Yeah.
yeah. Your basic fire Pokemon's attack, except any Moltres, do 10 damage more to your opponent's active Pokemon, which is pretty handy when your Entei is able to hit a little bit higher than 220 and just really do some heavy damage and things like that too. So yeah, no.
Well, that paired with the Entei, but also
Mhm.
Gouging Fire, as we know, caps out at 260.
Yep.
But the coolest thing here that I've seen lately that I never put two and two together is they play a one of Monkey Dory and then two Darkness
Yeah.
Energy. That's really cool, right? Because if you're able to get that, because you have the Magna Basin that is already going to put damage on yourself from
Mm-hmm.
accelerating the fire energy from the discard, and if you're able to hand attach a darkness energy to your Monkey Dory, and then even if you do or don't have Moltres in play,
Right.
you're able to really hit those big numbers. I know you brought up he
Mm.
has the Kieran as well too, which
Yep.
I know Tord before NASC was like a huge proponent of that in his weird Dragapult Zard, deck that he played. But really cool. You have your Sadas obviously to be able to accelerate your energy. You're playing your 3 gouging fire, and then obviously just a lot of consistency to really churn through it.
Yeah.
And again, we know Prime Catcher is the best A spec, but more and more we're seeing Secret Box make its way and appear to all different decks. Right? We have Ancient Box that plays it. We have uh, Gardevoir that played it with Henry Trials winning less,
I think
and then we see it in
we've seen it in
Gouchy
some
Found.
Lost Box too, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
did Davidson play it? He played that, or I think he played Prime Catcher. I think
I think it
actually.
was Prime Catcher,
I'm trying to
yeah.
remember.
I think it
Yeah, I
was a
think it was
pretty
Prime
clean
Catcher,
Prime
but
Catcher. Mhm. I
we have seen it
mean
in Lost Box list, right? So
yeah,
like
yeah.
we're seeing Secret Box
I
make
mean,
its way into top tables
it
more and
makes
more.
sense too, especially in decks that are driven by that. Well, not necessarily driven, but decks that really need stadiums as well. Being able to just go and grab that, secret box, grab your magma basin, get your Pokemon set up, magma basin to an Entei, or whatever it might be. It's just a really effective card. Getting 4 cards that you really need is pretty important to winning a Pokemon game, right? So, uh,
It gets everything except a Pokemon. It gets
yep.
a supporter, an item, a stadium, and a tool card.
Hmm.
The item I cannot express is like the secret thing in here, right?
Yeah.
Because you're playing an item to get an item, and that just you're able to really sequence well, just getting the exact board state that you want. But yeah, Secret Box when it
Yeah.
was revealed was one of my like I was like, this is just a really cool card, and I'm excited just to see its way venture into so many different decks. And I
Yeah.
think like I said, we know Prime Catcher is really, really good. Unfair Stamp is really, really good, but not every deck can really pull it off. So
Hmm.
you just
Yeah.
Secret Box has got to be like the
It's
probably
one
the
of my
third or fourth
favorites.
most
Yeah.
like played A spec
Yeah.
out there in the meta right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this deck just works really well together. Like, you wouldn't think that a deck like this that requires 3 energies to do 260 damage, like, you wouldn't think that's easy to accomplish, but this just the combos that this have with a magma basin, a manual
Yep.
attach, or an energy switch, or like there are so many ways to get your gouging fire ready to go on turn 2. If you're going first, turn 2, you're attacking, or turn 1 if you're going for a second. Like, it's a really strong deck. I've never played it personally myself, but I've seen it. I've played against it, um, and it's great. It's a fun deck to play, and obviously I would argue that it's pretty slept on, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, I think I've been the just because I know Arceus V Star is rotating here as well too with
yeah.
all the V Stars, and
Hmm.
so the like Armor Rouge fire off ability that I think was released like either in Paldea Evolve or even base set, were able to move all
Yeah.
your fire around. But this is all basics. You don't have to evolve. You're playing the 4 Magma Basin, and obviously it even has 3 Trekking Shoes in there as well, 3
Yeah.
Vessel. So you're just really trying to churn over your deck to get that energy acceleration, and obviously it
Yep.
pairs perfect with Sada because Couching Fire is a ancient
Exactly.
um, Pokemon as well too.
And Sod is
And yeah,
broken.
I love the
So
Delphox V. Yeah, I love the Delphox V just because even though we saw Mana V come back, but Delphox V, if people
yep.
don't recall this call, it came out in Lost Origin.
Hmm.
At first, when you read the attack, you're like, "Oh, this is awful," but it has its way. So the first one, I think it just says your opponent's
Yeah.
Pokemon for
Is
1 fire,
burned.
I should say, is
Burned and
burned and
confused. Yeah.
confused. Yeah, so like kind of helps get a little bit of damage on there, and then confusion they have to flip unless they are able to switch and have a free retreat.
Yep.
But then the second attack is obviously what's paired. So 2 fire energy and then a colorless, and it does 120. And it says put 2 energy attached to this Pokemon in the Lost Zone. This attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it has to hit the active.
Yeah.
But if you have the Moltres in play, it hits that magical number of 130, which can take out a Radiant Greninja, which is played in so many
Mhm.
different decks. But it's able to kind of help sneak up those evolving decks that you're able to get there if they don't have that Manaphy in, because who in the right mind plays Delphox V? But
Yeah.
Gouging Fire does, and so does the Arceus Armor Rouge. So props to Luke. I feel like his name, I've seen it before, and I think he's kind of always played a little bit off the wall decks. Luke Kirkham from the UK. If we just bring up
Yeah, been around for a
his
while.
list.
2014,
Yeah.
first season in Masters, it seems, or yeah,
So we see some Roaring Moon and then Gouging Fire. Maybe it was Dortmund. I think he got it on. I think he got on stream at Dortmund,
yeah.
and maybe day one or something like that when he was like on the winning end or something like that. So props to him. Again, top eight was pretty cool. We did have an asymmetric cut. I know we didn't. We touched on a little bit last week of the. I don't know about you, but the just the outcries in the community last week. It was just
Yeah,
so much doom and gloom, and it's just at the end of the day, it's just like if Kieran didn't tie, his match like towards the end in Louisville, like we would have had a huge asymmetric cut. Because does it cap out at top 32? I want to
I
say.
think so.
Um,
Yeah, pretty
but
sure.
anyway, I just felt there's so much doom and gloom, so I just sarcastically put in we got an asim cut, but pretty cool. And
Yeah.
actually, it was wild because I think what we're seeing, I think it did go to 16 for the asim because I remember the after the winning in, or excuse me, the last round of Swiss, they actually had a top 16 because James Cox was on actually. So
Let's see. Pocket data. I'm gonna do a quick search really quick because I'm curious now. You got my interest peak. So we're doing this
yeah, because that'd
live.
be perfect. So I can drink some water.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I don't, we're both struggling with the voice stuff tonight. Let's see. Trying to think where we were at. We had a bunch of. Am I at the right one? Because I'm seeing a bunch of 6-2. Yeah, bunch of 6-2, 6-1-1 at 10th place. So I'm assuming. Yeah.
Why is this? Yeah, so we must have had a whole bunch. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. Usually this is like spot on. We're in Masters.
Right.
Oh, TCGK Cup. They must have ran to a
Oh, my
cup.
bad. Hold on. Sorry. I guess they did it. Here we go.
Oh, I didn't. I was like, wait, this looks
That's why that
so.
was
I was like, how
confusing
did
me too. Okay. All
all
right.
good because they normally. I'll say normally this is the
Yeah, they're
site that
pretty
I go
spot
to
on.
see like the
Yeah,
most.
this is more like it. So it looks like
There we go.
right here. Wait, let's see.
28 looks like the cutoff. Or is that 29? Sorry,
20,
7.
28th at 9-3.
Okay,
Right? Yep.
and
Looks
then
like it.
20,
Oh, no,
and then
Even wait, where was
scroll
the
up.
cutoff?
That'd be top 20. Isn't that 28 right there?
Yeah, 20.
Right
Yeah.
there. What's that? Okay.
Yep. There we go.
Wild.
That's
Yeah, so
crazy.
really big ASIM, which we go from top 8 in Louisville, and then we have a very big ASIM here.
Yeah.
So just people just take a deep breath every now and then. Like will make things will be okay at the end of the day. Obviously, I would join in of just gaming gen and just sometimes still paying $70, even though we get less rounds, doesn't feel good. But
Yeah.
I realize they're trying to get people out of the convention centers because I'm trying to remember if it was San Antonio or one regional. I don't know if it was last season, maybe the season before. They literally had to kick everyone out. And they had to play like the stream cut, and then they had to play like out in the hallway of the convention center. So hopefully that
Wow.
doesn't come around anytime soon. But props to everyone that played. I know we have. Do we have Gdansk coming up already, or do I think we actually have a week off, and then
Yeah, I think it is a
yeah,
week
because
off.
they don't have it. Yeah, they don't have an official like Halloween tournament. But yeah, this next weekend on the 26th, there's no regional, and then we have one on Gdansk
Yep.
again
Good
on
dance and then
the second.
LAIC.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's fun.
there's a special event in
Yeah.
Buenos Aires as well.
Okay, just before as well too. Yeah, so I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of regionals, I should say, or just tournaments in general here, which is fun for you and I to talk about.
Yeah.
And then I know Toronto is the last one in December, and then we have basically an entire month off before Birmingham, which is, I
Mhm.
believe, a new location
Yeah.
that haven't seen on the regional scene, I guess, in the last 2.5 years. So pretty fun stuff. We do know Surging Sparks is just around the corner, but Tuan Lei, they were able to post a few more reveals. Nothing ground shaking, but a couple interesting ones. If you want to, I believe you
Yeah,
just have
got
that brought up. If you want to
yeah, I got
cover a couple of them, yep.
yeah, I've got Twan's Twitter pulled up. I think it's kind of scrolling through it. There's not a ton that like are seemingly earth shattering to me, and I think some of these are even from Japanese starter decks, which makes sense.
Yeah,
If I remember correctly, I think all of the. I think the Blaziken is definitely one of them. So we'll focus on Blaziken first. This is from a starter deck, so keep that in mind. It's a starter deck, so it's nothing that's gonna be the best card, perhaps, but it's still solid. So Blaziken EX, it has 320 HP. It has an ability, Seething Spirit. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. I think this is kind of fitting after just talking about gouging fire, and talking about energy
yeah,
acceleration and things like that. Obviously, this doesn't just apply to gouging fire because it's any basic energy. It's a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. Its attack for a fire and a colorless does 200 damage, and then seemingly every EX card that's printed nowadays, it says this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So some form of limitation, forcing you to switch things out. Um, so again, it has 320 HP. It's a stage 2 Pokemon, so I think that's expected at this point. A lot of these newer EXs that are stage 2, we're seeing these higher HPs. It's a fire type, so take that for whatever it is. I think, we always think of Charizard EX being one of the best cards in the meta, but it's not truly fire. It's dark. But, anyways, I think a lot of times fire cards get a little nerfed. Perhaps this is yet another one. Low
yeah,
energy cost, but for a stage 2, it does kind of suck seeing 200 damage and no extra. Like with Dragapult EX, we have 320 HP, 2 energy cost. It does 200 base, but at least it spreads damage. This is just a flat 200. Um, so I don't know. I'm not super impressed with it. I love Blaziken as a Pokemon, so that's cool. That's cool to see it getting some love. But yeah, nothing. I don't know.
yeah. The ability is probably the biggest highlight because
Right.
it's not specific fire energy. It's
Exactly.
basic energy and anywhere as well too.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a stage 2, but uh, pretty decent of ability. I guess you never know because Palkia V Star is the most prominent water attacker that we have outside of Radiant Greninja.
Yeah.
That goes away, which maybe feels like Chen Pao, maybe after rotation, might sneak its way back in there. Because you really, I know Japanese have always loved the Palkia V and V
Yeah.
Star in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just do low to the ground, Irida is probably the number one thing. So I'm curious on. I
Hmm.
guess you just play a lot more Cypher Maniacs, maybe,
Something like
because
that.
Pokestop goes away as well too. But I digress.
I, I
Continue.
think I
Continue
think
along.
I think Chimpao is dead. I can't remember the exact
Yeah.
card that Jared Grimes had posted about. Let me see if I can find it really quick because it was hilarious. He posted a really funny meme. So I'm just doing all this on the fly
Oh,
right
was
now.
it the
Where is it?
Gastrodon?
Yes. That's what it was. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, stop. He's already dead. And it has the Gastrodon.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah,
safe to say
Gastrodon.
that Chimpao is not coming back anytime soon. But you never know. You never know.
You never say never.
That's right. Not in the
Um,
TCG at least. So, um,
yeah.
but yeah, no. Scrolling through it some more, I think another one we called out was Toad Scroll. I think it's
Pretty cool ability.
yeah, we're seeing a lot of Toad Scroll lately. I think Toad Scroll EX has seen its fair share of fame lately too. But this is just a regular non EX Toad Scroll. It is still a stage 1. Has a pretty neat ability. It's called Forest Shortcut. While this Pokemon is on your bench, your active Pokemon retreat cost is 2 colorless less. This is like I said, it's a stage 1. It's a fighting type, Toadsicle, so not the grass type. 130 HP, and then its attack for a fighting colorless does 80 damage. So, um, again, nothing.
Something to the ability. You
Yeah,
just
and
kind of store the ability. Yeah.
maybe GLC. It could have some. Again, you're more of
Ooh.
the expert
Right.
GLC fan than I am, but 80 seems like a pretty good number to hit in GLC. Also, being able to have some easier retreat Pokemon could be nice too. So maybe this finds a home in GLC. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because there is a basic Toad School that is a fighting type that I
Hmm.
know that we got.
Yeah,
And with the basically every single GLC that plays the field blower,
yeah,
to take away your oh my gosh,
Float
I was
stone.
just
Your
looking at
float
my
stone.
GLC. Yeah, thank you, thank you,
Yep.
thank you. Floatstone. Um, being able to have this in an ability, I
Yeah.
know the because I was looking at GLC this weekend because I want to build a dragon deck because with the
Yeah.
Raging Bolt, the baby Raging
Baby
Bolt,
vision
and
bolt.
then
Yeah.
the Crydon, I've seen some more or less that have been playing the Sada's Vitality to
Yeah.
energy accelerate, which dragon you have to if you don't have your double dragon
Mm-hmm.
energy. But anyway, having
Yeah.
free retreat is
Pretty good.
always good,
Yep.
and just be able to, I guess, cut those switches, right? Because if you can cut a switch and have an ability that allows you to free retreat, and I think the last one that we'll cover is, now there wasn't like an official reveal, but you're able to
Yes. The,
go through
the Eevee.
was, yeah, the Eevee, just because everyone loves
It's pretty
Eevee.
cute. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so just like Pikachu, it is a base 200. It's a colorless, and it is a Terra Pokemon, so
Hmm.
it can't take any bench damage or anything. And then it has a basic attack of typical Eevee, right? Of the, if you go back to the base ones, right? Because you could have a Vaporeon,
Yeah.
Flareon, and Jolteon before obviously more evolutions came about in Gen 2 for just base 200. But I think the ability is what's going here. And I was just looking through my bulk, and I was just grabbing every single basic EV that I could find because obviously I think there was one in Asteroid Radiance and probably even one in Brilliant Stars. Obviously some now, and it has a really cool ability. If you want to go ahead and read that for the crew.
Yeah, yeah. So EVEX has the ability Rainbow DNA. You can play Pokemon EX that evolve from Eevee on top of this Pokemon to evolve it. Um, so pretty sweet, especially considering we've got some evolutions coming out in the future um, shortly. So pretty cool. And I think it really just plays into just the EV brand, right? I think we've
Yeah,
seen some cards in the past where if you attach, I think this was in the Gardevoir GX deck that won Worlds in 2017. If you attach, I forget what the ability was called, but if you attach an energy to this EV, you can evolve it immediately. Sorry, that wasn't in the Guard. Sorry, it was in the Espeon GX deck, not the Gardevoir. Obviously, there's two different ones, but yeah, so cool ability, and I think it's just cool to see that Pokemon continues to live into Eevee just being that Pokemon.
the
Super cute.
evolution Pokemon.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think from a not that I'm like huge collector. My wife is a big Eevee fan too. So from a collector standpoint, I think I saw some comment along the lines in this one that says, "So yeah, we're about to pay $300 for the SAR of this card too."
yeah,
So this is a I think this is going to be a chase card for quite a few people, especially in
yeah.
the secret illustration rare version of it too. So,
Yeah, just like the Pikachu
yep,
that we're going to get in Surging Sparks as well too.
exactly.
Catering to, of course, that, and that's the one thing with the Pokemon community is basically, us competitive players are in the vast majority, right? If we were just to take a poll of people that have Pokemon cards, I'm guessing what 80% are collectors first before ever even being competitive. But yeah, we'll see. We know there's an evolutions, or excuse me, an EV special set coming, which I digress because it's not going to be in a booster box. I just have never liked those
I
special
know.
sets. But we know that it's going to be coming, which will be interesting. Who knows? I know the Sylveon EX. I know that is a popular amongst our Discord. They're excited to kind of play that, which
Yeah,
I believe comes out in the Surgeon
yeah.
Sparks.
It's
Yeah, it does. Right?
right.
It has to be because it's been revealed for so
I
long.
know. I think so, but
Oh, it has to be because it
yeah,
was
that's right. We were thinking it
the
was going to come out.
Cerulege.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Because we
it
had
it
this
was.
conversation when we thought it was going to come out in Stellar Crown, but it was actually Surging Sparks. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep.
Yep. Because we got the Cerulege EX, which I'm kind of excited to experiment about, and
Yeah.
then the Sylveon EX, which were like, what do they call them in Japan? Like their starter decks
Yeah,
or
it's a
something
starter
like
deck.
that.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
yep. So more in the right, and we think Tuan, they always are first to having the best translations and being able to make sure they're accurate as well too. So
Absolutely.
props for them. So Michael, that basically much covers it. Not a whole lot of time between Louisville to
I know,
Lille.
right?
We
Give us
recap
a
it
break.
again. Cheers to everyone that was a Regidrago fan. Hopefully, you're able to catch a lot because Regidrago's on stream a whole bunch, and I literally as soon as we hang up here in a little bit, I'm going to go back and rewatch just at a slower speed so I can actually go through and see the lines. And this is another one like completely off topic, but we still in Europe we don't see like the overlay that they have in America, so I'm still
Yeah.
lost, right? Because it's an official representation, or excuse me, an official stream, live stream of it. But I'm still lost as to why we only have that in NA and not in Europe. But I digress. So for our PCS updates, so I did put in and linked it as well too. If you're able to bring that up, I did go through a whole bunch of stuff and figured out pricing for our winner and second place. So I created kind of two different PCS, you know, I guess packs, if you will. So the winner, and again, if you're listening, so I have two different things. I have a set of Ultra Balls from Brilliant Stars, a comfy Area Zero Underdubs, a Reverse Hollow Tatsugiri, a Deluxe Bomb, and a Greninja EX in one kind of pack. And then the other pack has an Artisan, a Charizard EX, a Venusaur EX, a illustration rare
Mr. Mime.
uh, yeah, Mr. Mime, a Orthworm, and then a shiny Squawkabilly EX from Paldean Fates, a Roxanne, and Iono. So the winner will get their choice of whatever one they want. Maybe they want another set of Ultra Balls. I know for me, I have a whole bunch of these, but anytime I get an S Ball, I'm super excited just because obviously that's going to be our prominent ball search and Ultra Ball. They reprinted, thankfully,
Yeah.
because the ball search that we've gotten has been garbage outside of desk balls. So
Sweet.
winner gets that. I have a whole bunch of codes as well to give away to our top four. Everyone will get 10 codes no matter what for finishing top four. But I thought this was something a little bit different as well too. And then in December we'll be here before we know it, which I'll have our
Crazy.
Patreon bi-monthly raffle as well too. And I believe I have another deck box from the Pokemon official releases, which we'll reveal that in a little bit as well too. But so we're starting round four. I know there's only one player or two players, I should say, at 3-0, and then a whole bunch. So like getting to that top 3 and 4 will be very interesting. So this is our last round before Top Cut, and then I would say we have a special reveal coming out later this week. So please keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Michael and I are very excited to have a special announcement towards the end of the week, but more on that, coming towards the end of the week, which I'm excited
Yep.
that we get to reveal that. And then I know anyone that is in our Patreon, thank you so much for helping support the show. I was able to take some of those fundings and get groceries and get stuff for people in Louisville. And I know, whenever the next regional that you have, maybe you'll get to go to one before I do. But I know even if I don't get to go to NAIC, whoever I know Drew is planning to be there.
Yeah.
So I will send him some money to use for anyone that happens to be there. But I do appreciate everyone that helps obviously support the show, and it helps just put on our tournaments and get different sort of pricing as well too. For following more of me, I don't know how much longer we can say Twitter or X, but we'll see. If we go to Blue Sky, who knows? We'll figure it out. We'll kind of let the things settle. But you can find me at PCS_pod on Twitter or X. Twitch at PCS Podcast. I know we haven't had that, but maybe with our announcement later this week, there'll be more coming on that. And then patreon.com/PCS Podcast. There you can see all of our different tiers and the pricing that you can get. And then youtube.com at the PCS Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, Michael. Where can the people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at mheradiaptcg. I don't know what Blue Sky is. I've seen it around. Probably won't get it. I'm too old for that kind of stuff. I remember when I first got onto Pokemon Twitter, everybody thought we were going to move over to Threads, and that never happened. So if I'm, maybe I'm being a little bit of a curmudgeon here, but I think we're going to stay on Twitter. I don't think it'll
I would
last.
say just like the outcries of not having
Yeah.
everyone at X2 make top cut, just let's let the space breathe a little bit. It's basically the guy that created Twitter, created Blue Sky,
Yep.
and obviously, yeah, we'll just keep this not about the uh, yeah, I cannot wait till the election's over and we're going up north
Yep.
into a place that doesn't have very much reception. Specifically, I chose that week for our one last getaway before obviously baby two comes. But thank you everyone that listens. Everyone that's been a Regidrago enjoyer, please celebrate responsibly. And you can find more of us later this week, and then obviously next week, recapping everything in the Pokemon community. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a good rest of your night.
Peace.